Elon Musk had a clear vision. He had an amazing culture that attracted amazing leaders, people who can actually get stuff done to come in and work with him. And therefore, he then had something he could market.
Yeah.
Vision, culture, leadership, market. He sold 180,000 cars from stage to an audience of very sophisticated, very high credit individuals that wouldn't exist for 2 to 3 years. And because he's a fulfillment expert, he didn't go to prison. He had to have that part too. But vision, culture, leadership, marketing. Why are we overlooking that? Because we think that shoving our product and our services down people's throats on LinkedIn and claiming all of these stupid case studies are going to be exactly what you win. We are professional beggars underneath bridges on LinkedIn saying, please work with us. We promise we're going to do X. No, that's not a vision. It's not how you win.
Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you will pick up. Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone. Darren Saul here, your host of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast. It's episode 241. Hope everybody's doing fantastically well. And we're going to have a fantastic show. I've got Jackson Calame all the way from the US. How you doing, Jackson?
I'm doing awesome, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeehaw, man. Two Cowboys. We got the Cowboys from Australia and the Cowboys from Texas today.
Love it, man. Absolutely love it. Now, for everybody who doesn't know who Jackson is, Jackson teaches visionary entrepreneurs how to unlock sustainable revenue growth and expand their legacy by becoming a power brand in their market. And he does this using a number of different tools and methodologies, but we're going to dive into those today. But before we jump in, I'll just let everybody know, if anybody's out there, an aspiring podcaster looking to learn how to start your own show, I've just launched a fantastic 7-day free podcast launch challenge. So you can jump on, the links in the show notes, and you get 7 days of incredible content for free that helps you put together your own show. Thanks, Jackson. I appreciate that.
Woo! Go get it.
Go get it. But let's get into it. So, Jackson, man, let's jump in. Tell us a bit about your background, what you do, and we'll kind of dive into the conversation and educate the audience as best we can.
Awesome. Oh, man, we can go so deep with this, and I probably will. So I'm going to start there. I was raised by my mom and 5 older sisters.
Wow.
Right. What does that mean? God knew I needed 6 moms.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Hell of a work.
And my dad's side of the family. So I had all the love in the world. These sisters, they treated me like a king. My mom raised us the right way. I mean, it was like the perfect home.
Wow.
My dad's family, though, it was the exact opposite. It was alcohol. It was abuse. There was drugs. It was everything that you wouldn't want in a home.
Wow.
And that gave me a perspective of, what do I want for my life? And thank God I gravitated towards what my mom offered me. Ended up serving a mission. While I was on my mission in Uruguay, I had a very strong epiphany. I'm not going to share the full story, but felt a hand slap me. Couldn't see. And I heard a voice that said, Jackson, why don't you go home, take advantage of your schooling for once, learn about business, and help as many towns like this as you possibly can. It was a life-changing experience. I had a 0.33 GPA, Darren. I had no business being in business. For those who don't know the U.S. scales, that's like the equivalent of a capital F with an extra F beside it. Oh my God, I was not doing well in school. So to receive that and know that's what I was supposed to do while I was doing nothing related to business was a very weird, eye-opening experience. 14 years later, overnight, I'm here with First Class Business, Vision Pros Live, Passion Pro, Oportunidades de Trabajo para Latinos, and helping businesses with their growth and through some really cool processes to get to where I am now. And my hope is that my wisdom will protect the audience from some of the serious challenges that exist in the overglorified reality of entrepreneurship. Most people only make it to entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he's talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. And just jumping on your energy, like straight away when we jumped on the call, even before the call, I could tell that you are very present and very mindful. And you've obviously done a lot of work on yourself. And it makes perfect sense now coming after hearing that story, in that you are very present, very mindful, very empathetic, and you choose your words carefully. So you've obviously done a lot of growth in the last so many years.
Hickle fickle Billy, man. I guess the words can be a choice too. I'm kind of picking on you a little bit, but yes, intentionality, right? Being able to be yourself, being willing to just show up. Like I had to go through some really hard things to learn that. I hope other people are willing to hear that. I used to be a lot like Grant Cardone. I would tell people what to do, and I would use coercive and manipulative language, where you have to do this. You should go there. If you don't do this, you will blah, blah, blah. Like I used to lead the sheep off the cliff on accident, thinking that was the way to help people. I love you, Grant, as a person. I can't stand the processes, though.
Yeah.
We need better frameworks than that. We do. And we have an opportunity as leaders to embrace love and to embrace freedom and to be our best selves and to respect other people's visions and empower them to follow their own visions. And so I've made a roundabout choice in life to say, you know what? I want to be more present. I want to be my best. And I want to go to bed happy knowing that I gave my best today.
And how easy was that to do? How easy was that to make that change?
Oh my gosh. Well, one divorce later, that's a hard aspect, right? Is I was a good dad. I was a pretty good husband, but it wasn't aligned well with my spouse. The real moment, and it came through a number of lost relationships too along the way, where it's like, okay, maybe I'm pushing too hard. Maybe I'm projecting on others. You got to learn little bitty truths about psychology if you want to move away from unhealthy habits. Then I was running around the track. And this seems probably so arbitrary to most of you, but here I am, it's nighttime. I had a back surgery and I had every reason. It's starting to rain. And so I'm like ready to slow down in this lap. And I had this thought, WWLJD. What would LeBron James do? Right. That's what came to mind.
Nice.
And I thought, oh, he would book it. He would crush this lap. And so I did. I freaking crushed the lap. There was no audience. There's nobody watching me. There was no reason for me to do this other than just for myself. And so I crushed the lap. I run an extra 25 yards through it. And I thought, that's what it feels like to be LeBron James. Right. One tiny moment in my life, I've dedicated myself to be my best self for myself.
Yep.
Rather than for the crowd and rather than for others. Oh, this is what it's like to be Jake Larson of Video Power Marketing, one of my other great mentors, right? I realized, man, I don't need to do things because other people want me to be something. I don't need to do things to be an example.
Yeah.
I just want to be. I just want to be my best. I owe it to myself to be my best. And so, I don't know, little things here and there. I started to realize where I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's so true. Like we all have such potential. And it's up to ourselves, and it's almost a crime if we don't try and fulfill that potential.
It takes one to know one. I'm going to pick on you. Darren, how did you figure it out?
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I mean, I've been studying and, studying spirituality and philosophy all my life. And I've always been an observer. I've always been a bit of an introvert. I'm very social, but I've always been a bit of an introvert in that I love to just observe and look and reflect and ask myself questions rather than always be the one out there on show. I can be, but it's allowed me to always be introspective and do the work internally while I'm doing whatever I do. So I've always been that way. And I love growth. I've studied Buddhism, the philosophy of Buddhism, which is fascinating to me. And that whole concept of self-growth, self-development, and choice has been a big part of what I do. Yeah,
I love it. Your logo is brilliant, by the way.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Many.
There's a great lady in Australia. Her name's Danny Vitz, and all you do is send her a photo, and she does a caricature for you. And she's doing some artwork for me right now. She's fantastic.
Dude, it shows so much about perspective. Like, is it a barbell? Is it a microphone? Is this about talking or listening? There's so many perspectives to your logo. It's like, this is just so.
I love it. Yeah. Now, what is it about wanting to help solopreneurs and wantrepreneurs and entrepreneurs succeed that makes you get up in the morning?
Selfishly, back to learning to love myself, right? That doesn't necessarily drive me to get up in the morning anymore. What drives me is living my best day, being grateful that I did wake up for a new day. Part of what I love to do is just help people. All right. There's such a good feeling that comes from helping others. I feel called to help in that space. The higher level calling has to do with our rally cry is to bridge the economic gap between North America, South America, and rest of the world.
Wow.
Right? That's really what I focus on. So I speak Spanish fluently.
Yeah.
I spend most of my day with my Spanish speaking team, and we have a blast, dude. Like we train on all sorts of stuff all day long, but it's the energy that they put off. It's the family like feel of working together. It's the jokes about, haha, gringo said that wrong. Right? It's the, well, wait a second. In Peru, do you guys say that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so it's not me. Like we have all of these fun little back and forths, and we know that our role for that, we have a digital ambassador program for people in Central and South America and beyond that most of these people have never even heard of LinkedIn, Darren.
Oh, crazy. Yeah.
They've never heard of Upwork.
No
They don't
way.
know that Fiverr exists. They've never read Rich Dad Poor Dad. They've never heard of Think and Grow Rich. There's an entire world out there that has been left behind with a lot of this type of stuff and distracted by the games of apps or the Facebook scrolling and the TikTok posting. And you know what's amazing? They're like world-class social media marketers, but they're doing it for free for all these apps and they have no idea.
Yep.
So when we can shift that perspective, right, when we can help them understand that, wait a second, you can make money doing this, and we can help them go into a program where they learn to be digital ambassadors, where they learn how to do interviews, they learn how to be consistent and reliable and show up for work on time, all the basics of life that so many of us are privileged enough to take for granted and that we think are common sense. No, it's not. Curse of Knowledge says it's common sense. We take things for granted once we learn it, but we're all working together knowing that every new Latino or Filipino or person in India that we reach, we're unlocking new opportunities that, no, it doesn't necessarily get the entrepreneur we're working with their next yacht or their third house, but it might help those individuals get running water in their house for the first time or to be able to pay for their medical conditions. I'm like, that stuff, man, that's
what drives.
That's what I do my daily stuff for.
And where did the Spanish come from? How do you speak such French?
Well, you could say the public school system. No, public school system gave me a lot. I don't like the people knock it because it did help me a lot. But I went into Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, and I sat next to Jesus. And every class on purpose, man, he gave me all the answers. I didn't have any desire to learn Spanish. I got called to serve a mission in Uruguay. Spanish speaking. And in that moment, I was like, okay, cool. Awesome. I'm going to take this more seriously now. And so I went to a mission training center and they put me in advanced Spanish because of the classes I had been in learning next to Jesus, right? I had no idea what was going on and it was really painful and they wanted me in there. They said I was a leader, whatever. Like I felt lost. I stuck my nose in a dictionary and memorized every word that I could for 2 months. Just trying, stressing, figuring out what I'm going to do. And then I went and lived in Uruguay. And I tell you what, man, you learn the art of crying as a 19-year-old man when you're put in a position where you can't understand people, you can't really communicate.
19. That was so young.
19, yep. Getting manly. Very man now, man. It was so hard. I decided, what was I going to want to communicate with people about, right? I'm memorizing the dictionary. I'm like, if there's one thing I could communicate, what would it be?
Yeah.
And I decided that I believed love was the greatest power in the world. And so I learned everything I could about love and how to talk about love. And so I probably sounded like this: love, neighbor, friends, family, like just excited and like saying the words. And when I left that area, they called me Elder Amor, which means elder love, title and love. That's, you just dive immersion. You dive in, you figure it out. Came back from that, got married to a Spanish speaking woman. Second time I got married and quickly learned that, there's curse words in this language too. You fight in this language as well. You flirt in this language. Like there's all sorts that you learn. And so, no, if you want to learn a language, immersion's really the way to do it. Knowing that, I guess one tip I have for all you language learners out there is that the real success for learning a language is simple confidence. That is it. I was fluent for, what would it have been, 14 months before I would claim fluency.
Wow.
I was only 4.5 months when I was in the country when I was actually fluent, but I couldn't justify it. I was like, Darren, I don't know anything about hospitals. I don't know anything about cars. I don't know anything about kitchens. Like, I'm not fluent. And then I thought in English and I was like, I don't know anything about hospitals. I don't know anything about cars. I don't know anything about kitchens in English. Oh, I guess I am fluent. So arrivederci, just go for it.
They say actually when you dream in another language is when you're fluent, or when you can claim fluency. When you start
I never
dreaming
knew
in
if
that
we were
language.
streaming in Spanish or English.
Yeah.
No, I tell you what though, when I'm walking with a guy and there's a bus coming his direction, he only speaks Spanish,
Yeah.
right? And he's about to walk into the road and I'm going, trying to, like, I didn't know either language at that point. And so there's all sorts of things they say, but no, it's just, again, confidence. If you're willing to dive into it and use the language, knowing that communication doesn't have to do with words, right? It has to do with feeling.
Definitely.
And are you able to transcend the words and capture the essence of the relationship?
Yeah.
You're fluent in life, man. That's where I want to be fluent.
Yeah. Love that. Very, very cool. Well, Jackson, let's chat a bit more about your work to help entrepreneurs and what you do in terms of building businesses and marketing and stuff like that. So I understand that you're very passionate about video. Is that correct?
I'm very passionate about all things growth. So video is definitely a big part.
Video
I've
is
had
one of
some
them?
fun victories with video.
Is that one of the most important mediums for you, or is it really the combination of video together with the other mediums available?
No, to ruin the book for everybody, love and leadership.
There you go.
That's it. You want to create something sustainable and scalable that you are proud of and that actually serves the world, then combine love and leadership.
Right.
Leadership is often driven with the opposite force, and that is hate. And we all exercise hate to some degree, right? We get hangry. When I'm hangry, right, I'm snapping or I'm honking my horn in traffic. Hey, look, I'm sorry, but that comes from a position of hate. And we love to pretend we're all perfect. And then no. We have both sides. But, there was a man who built a very strong legacy for himself. His name was Hitler. He did so with hate, right? There's another man who built a very strong legacy for himself. His name was Martin Luther King, right? He did so with love, right? So it really boils down to, are we willing to learn all the things that we can in order to create the type of life that we want?
Yep.
With leadership and love. And then things like video, that's an extra mechanism. That's one of the hows or the whats.
Yeah.
And you can scale really cool things with it. Don't get me wrong. But we got to be positioned as great leaders. Otherwise, I'm like, I don't really want to work with you. Like, why would I want to work with you if you don't exercise great love and leadership?
Yeah, so important. It's nice to be more mindful of the greater strategy and the greater purpose than just worrying about the tactics and the medium.
Simon says start with why. I say start with who and why.
I like that.
But who and why. The what and the how, the people will figure that out.
Okay, very cool. And from a video point of view then, if we drill down even deeper, YouTube is a big play for you?
Huge. So YouTube, it's one of those baskets that is now a lot easier to enter. When I was at Video Power Marketing, I was right-hand man for Jake Larson at the company, and it was him and 2 interns, and he had some of the best clients in the world. I'm like, really? He had John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur Fire as a client, right? He had Dan Martell of SaaS Academy as a client. Yep. He had Vivint. He had Nordic Track. He had Yahoo.com, Corel Draw, Fortune Builders, REI Success Academy. I mean, the guy was crushing it when it came to running YouTube ads at scale and helping people build. And the video producer we worked with, Travis Chambers, one of the Chamber Media. If you're an entrepreneur looking to scale, write these names down and start calling these people. Travis Chambers produced the #1 YouTube ad of the decade with Kobe Bryant and Lionel Messi on Turkish Airlines, right? You can go look these things up. The Nordic Track dance off. Oh my, go look these videos up. They're fun to watch. They're short, easy to see the power of growth. But what's really neat about Travis and the Harmon brothers and Jake Larson is that they really understand the science of virality and how to really engineer virality. Travis has done it many times in his life, in and out of business. Jake has done it many times in and out of business. Yeah. So once you understand that those frameworks exist, you can go nuts and you can build things very fast, and you'll probably create a bomb that explodes, and it'll be a one-hit wonder. If you combine those values and those principles with great love and great leadership and great infrastructure, then you can create something that scales and stands the test of time.
Love it.
That's the type of scaling that I want. But as far as video goes, the frameworks that most people are teaching these days, they're actually right. Most of those frameworks are aligned with what it is Jake and Travis teach. The challenge is just because you make a great steak doesn't mean you run a great restaurant.
Yep. I love that. Very true. And the key is to back up the success and the virality with a good product or a good service.
You got to. There's a big piece of it. That's afterwards. You get that fulfillment side.
Yep.
What I find most fascinating is that there was a man who was told by Wall Street he would never win, that in more than 50 years, nobody has ever cracked the code on that industry. And he brought his products to us and his services to us. And a lot of people thought it was, pretty funny what they were trying to do. And then you had a celebrity who got really angry about this particular brand and tried to slam it and crush it with everything he had. And his name was George Clooney. Love you, George. He's got great movies. Then that same exact entrepreneur who still hadn't proven to the world exactly what he was doing, although, he had pretty much proved it. And everybody would say today, like, what are you talking about? Everybody loves him, or everybody believes he's amazing. They did not back when he was launching it. And so he got on stage, and on stage, he decided to sell a car. And he said that all of you who will put $1,000 down in this car, you will get the car in 2 to 3 years. Come on, man. None of us are going to go into a car dealership, buy a car and then tell us that we don't know when we're going to get it. Come on.
Yep.
Why? Because Elon Musk had a clear vision. He had an amazing culture that attracted amazing leaders, people who can actually get stuff done, to come in and work with him. And therefore he then had something he could market. Yeah. Vision, culture, leadership, market. He sold 180,000 cars from stage to an audience of very sophisticated, very high credit individuals that wouldn't exist for 2 to 3 years. And because he's a fulfillment expert, he didn't go to prison. He had to have that part too. But vision, culture, leadership, marketing. Why are we overlooking that? Because we think that shoving our product and our services down people's throats on LinkedIn and claiming all of these stupid case studies are going to be exactly what you win. We are professional beggars underneath bridges on LinkedIn saying, please work with us. We promise we're going to do X. No, that's not a vision. It's not how you win.
Very good point. But I suppose it begs the question, and I don't know enough about Elon Musk, but how important is the selling from stage component and the salesmanship?
That's a really good question. Well, I was talking to another entrepreneur about that because he was downplaying the importance of timing, or he was overlooking the aspect of timing and context and the process of deciding about scale. If you look at a bigger, more established company, maybe not bigger, but more established company, Disney. The next Disney movie that comes out, nobody cares. It's not a Disney fan. The movie is the product or the service. Even though their companies existed for a long time, and they're still going to invest a ton of money in promoting it, in reality, they already have their core existing demographic, and the people who belong to that culture are pretty much all going to watch the new movie. There's a couple of exceptions. When it comes to the theatrics of stage, yes, TED Talks can very much position your brand. The challenge I see happening is most people are one, TED is scaling now. Two, if you end up as the worst TED Talk of all time, right, and most of you are going to end up with the list of views, your views are going to be super, super small comparatively compared to the great TED Talks. Nobody's going to come up to you and say, hey, you really screwed that TED Talk up. People don't like conflict, especially in today's world. You might have some people on YouTube trolling you about it, but in reality, most people are just going to say like, hey, great job. And they're going to exercise ruinous empathy. You're never going to know what you did wrong or how you did it wrong unless you really look at that and say, how do I prepare for these types of launches? So yes, getting on stage can matter and can help with the process, having the context of the stage prepared. But as leaders, why not take the time to figure out what the repercussions are going to look like before you go that route? Why not find somebody who's going to help you forecast that so that you can readjust? I'm not saying you're going to fail. I'm saying that your formulas right now, if you don't fix those, yes, you're very highly likely going to fail to hit the expectations of your market, the desires of your heart, and you can avoid that if you just stop abiding by the get-rich-quick principles that are continually putting you in this position where you say, I'm not a get-rich-quicker, but yet you're turning around and spending 20 minutes on a phone call with somebody before hiring them. It's like, what? Yes, you are.
Good point. But I suppose the thing to think about is we can have the greatest product and the greatest service, but if we don't know how to sell it or market it,
Screwed.
there's that real balance between doing all the things up front and making sure the vision is right and the strategy and the long-term aspects are dialed in. But then you've got to have some skills or learn some skills to actually present it to the world.
Well, that's the difference in Elon Musk and Ja Rule.
Yeah.
All right. Ja Rule launched his event, it told everybody it was going to be awesome. And he did go to prison because he wasn't able to fulfill on what his promises. So the other challenge for us as providers and marketers is, are we actually pre-qualifying people? Or are we actually making sure that these business owners are going to win? Or are we just in it for a quick buck? And are we the yes men as an agency who says, oh, well, if they fail, it's their fault? There's a catch-22 to that. I think we as providers have to take, and Jake was great about this. He would not take on a client that he did not think had at least a 7x opportunity for a return. And I didn't like that. I fought him on it. I was like, dude, that's not fair to all the people who could be awesome. And I mean, it was his business. He could take on who he wanted to, of course. But he said, Jackson, if we take that client on and they don't get success, they become a story of failure. And they're going to be a reflection of our brand. And now, well, what are we going to do? Talk about the meh campaign that we did? And he didn't say it with that harshness. That's me coming out, not Jake. Jake's tone is far more pleasant. I do want to help the people who are struggling and help them kind of get out of their way. I've also had to learn to kind of back off a little bit, give them systems, let them play in the sandbox and figure out this stuff's hard. As business owners, we need to be willing to learn the hard stuff and move towards where our blind spots are. We certainly have to be safe to do so, but it goes back to, who are you allowing to influence you? Yeah. And are you really buying into what that mastermind, that mentor, that coach is teaching you, or that executive is trying to help you see? Or are you only buying in half-heartedly and then allowing other people to kind of stab you in the back, like the coaches behind the scenes who say, do they really know what they're talking about? And are you sure that's the case? And it's a mess, but as an entrepreneur, you've got to learn the emotional intelligence skills to be able to filter the noise and know who to trust.
Yeah, I really love that, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of saying, oh, I pay my coach. I have my coach is God, and I'll just listen to everything and do everything my coach tells me. You're just following blindly again.
LeBron James, how many coaches does LeBron James have? I don't ever want to hear an entrepreneur say, I have a coach. That is a fast track to poverty. LeBron James has probably over 100 coaches in his life.
Wow. Yep.
The best of the best embrace the law of abundance. They realize there are so many opportunities. When we put limiting beliefs in place where we say, I have, or I do, or my coach says X, Y, that is ego and arrogance or ignorance getting right in the way. I can't help somebody.
Yeah. And it's also a bit of laziness in a way, because you want to just say, I don't have to think anymore. I'll just follow blindly one person. Whereas
and then you no accountability on my part. I'll just blame them later once it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yep. Same thing. I got victim mentality. Oh, I bought $10,000 in this course and I invested $5,000. Look, I get it. Go find a therapist who can help you kite through that. But if you want to win, right, what you really bought was a bunch of parts to different Lamborghinis or different airplanes. They told you it was a plane. You believe them, and you're an adult, so that's your fault for listening to them and believing that. You have to accept responsibility, and you still have a garage full of amazing parts.
Yep.
Why don't we use those and put them together to actually win, rather than continue to throw everybody under the bus who's gotten in our way, when in reality, you were the one who made the decisions.
That's right.
We can't be victims and be victorious.
Yep. I love that. I'm passionate about taking everything that happens and everything that I hear and distilling it down and deciphering it and doing something with it in my own voice. It's not about following one person blindly. It's about, what can I learn from everybody and what can I create in my voice? That's really powerful.
That's so cool. That aligns with James Allen. Have you read his book, As a Man Thinketh?
No, I haven't, no.
It's the OG.
I've heard of it, but yeah.
It's the OG of inspiration books. It was written in the 1800s. As a Man Thinketh. You remind me of what he teaches in that book.
Wow, amazing.
Love it.
Love it. Awesome, man. Now, I want to tap into something you said a bit earlier as well. Virality. Can you give us a little bit of insight for to get tactical and to get a little bit more, intricate with some of the strategies out there? if people are really trying to go viral, whether it be video, whether it be something else, but viral in terms of their message and help their brand, what are some of the tips and tricks you can give us to help achieve virality, if there is such a thing?
The biggest one that nobody wants is the scientific method.
Okay.
Learn it, follow it, use it. Two, in addition to that, we have something called the Irresistible Video Sales Letter Framework. Okay. Right. So I'd write these 5 steps down. Happy to give it to everybody too. We sell it for $97. No, we have it available on the thing, but I'm happy to give it away. Number 1, grab attention, right? Make a promise.
Yep.
Grab attention and make a promise. Those 2 things go hand in hand. Just call out your audience. That's the way to do it. Or tell people, what they're going to learn in the video. Give some people an idea of where you're going with this. Right. So grab attention and make a promise. 2, problem or opportunity. Are you going to focus on the problems and the pains that they have, or are you going to focus on the benefits and the opportunities? I'd add 1/3 level, right? So in sales, they teach you people buy because of pain more than they buy because of pleasure, but make sure you know both. Mm-hmm. Not elites, not if you're selling to entrepreneurs. Elites are very good at, LeBron James will ignore his pain and he will ignore the pleasures of ice cream in order to pursue his purpose. Purpose is the 3rd level.
I love that.
Right. So we want to know, are we focusing on the problem? Are we focusing on the opportunity? Or are we focusing on the purpose? Very important to focus your messaging around that. Credibility, step 3. You've got to have credibility and showcase your credibility. There's a lot of ways you can do that. Most people are trying too hard. If you have to tell me you're a doctor, you're a shitty doctor. You shouldn't have to say that out loud. If you have to tell me you're a coach and you're leveraging your status as a coach to get me to listen, you're a crappy coach. You haven't been able to leverage your expertise to show me that you are actually valuable. So that leads to number 4, which is give value, give a solution, teach people what it is they need to know in order to bridge their gaps. In sales right now, one of the most common methodologies is find out where people are at, find out where people want to go. Do not bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Why? Because they need you in order to bridge the gap. Well, scale says the opposite. Create a search engine like Google, give it out for free to the world, and next thing you know, you'll become one of the best companies in the world too. Right? Obviously, there's more.
Funny
to
enough,
it.
I was going to ask you exactly that, because a lot of sales techniques now, and even people that do a lot of video and general marketing, there are so many schools of thought or conflicting schools of thought. Some sell the strategy and not give any tactics away because I want you to buy them, and some give it all away for free. So it's fascinating, that contrast.
It's what's hard for me is, like, I come across as a little bit like pretentious in this reality, and I know that, and people can think that I'm saying that all this is wrong. No, I'm the conductor of an orchestra who recognizes the value of the flute player, the chimes, the trumpet, the trombone, all of that stuff. We really got to bring it together in order to create music. And when we find these people who want to fight and make their instrument the important, get out of my band. Like we don't have place for people who create that type of conflict. Contrast will come because of the music that is played. That's part of the beauty of creating. But we have to be able to work together and appreciate each other. So the call to action is the last piece of that puzzle. It's just inviting people to take action. If your product was that good, people will use it. If it's not good, or your message isn't good, then you're going to have a hard time. So you've got to be willing and able to refine that. And sometimes that means adding a little bit more of the conversion sauce. Sometimes it means adding a little bit more of the branding and fluffy and altruistic story behind it. But if you're trying to be your own car mechanic, when you stop in the pit, like, what are you doing? Get out of the pit stop. Don't try to mess with the transmission. Get somebody else who can do that and get ready to get back in the car and drive. You got to know your place as an entrepreneur, and most of them want to be the tyrant without even realizing it. And you can't attract great people to work with you when you're trying to be the know-it-all or the one who does it all. Not healthy.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Love it. And I think we were up to number 5 before I interrupted you as well.
5 was a call to action. So it's just that simple invitation. So yes, bridge the gaps, call the attention. Your ad might sound something like, hey, my name is Jackson. If you're looking for your maximum home value, feel free to watch this ad. If not, feel free to skip it. By the way, you might be new to San Antonio. I was born and raised here. I moved away for years and actually moved back in the heat of the market. So I know what that's like. Whether you're looking for the best schools for your children or you're looking for the best side of town where you might want to retire, you just want a realtor who's willing to listen, feel free to call me at this number, 210-683, repeat it. Give them a position to give them space to be able to digest what the heck just happened.
Yep.
And then allow for a longer outro, 15 to 30 seconds, because they're going to be debating, do I call this guy or not? And if they decide not to call you, why? It's because of stranger danger. They don't know me. They're not ready to jump into bed with me. They're not ready for me to be their realtor. They may need to see the video multiple times. They may also benefit tremendously from seeing a different angle. So it's video number 2. I might come back on and I might say, hey, you already saw me in the past. I just want to give you a chance to hear what my customers are saying about me. Boom, skip, jump cut. Let the customers talk about it. Somebody in the military who's PCSing if you're in San Antonio, somebody who's Latino, and perhaps adds the Spanish dynamic to it. A young family buying their first home, maybe a fourth with somebody who bought a luxury home. If you're sprinkling in all the sizzles, sass, sauce of all the benefits, pains, and purpose, you can create something magical and you can move people forward faster through your pipeline. But I would caution, the faster people commit to you, they usually will have the same exact parallel with canceling.
Exactly.
People who are quick to commit are just as likely to be quick to decommit.
Yeah.
If you want loyalty, you have to build at a healthier pace.
Yeah, because when they commit really fast, it's pure emotion. But then when the logic takes over, they think, what have I done?
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Or they have a spouse who does that, or they have the office assistant who does, or the team who's like, what? You hired him and you didn't tell any of us? Great job. You just screwed up your company culture. We've got to be aware of how our actions are affecting the relationships that we want to protect. If we pay attention to that, we find people who are willing to pay attention to that, we can create amazing success.
Love that. And I love the way that you presented that CTA in such a comfortable and non-aggressive way. I think that's the key as well, is you're just telling people, this is what I have for you. All good. If you're not interested right now, maybe in the future, but you don't have to go and do anything now. It's just out there if you need it or if you want it.
Yes. It's huge. It's respectful. It shows them that you know how to respect boundaries. And again, thank you. Jake Larson's one of my favorite superheroes on the planet.
Wow.
He taught me so much about learning to show up the best of my ability. And I see him do that in his family, and I see him do that in business as well every day.
Very cool. Now, there's one thing I just wanted to tap into before we finish up. Purpose. Obviously, that's a big one for you.
Huge.
I've heard of sales of features and benefits and the whys and the pains and the pleasure and all that stuff before. But how do we sell to purpose? That's not so simple.
Actually, it's very simple.
Right.
Stop selling to pain and pleasure.
Okay.
You have to turn against the market. Mark Twain was famous for saying, if everybody's running in a certain direction, run in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett is also big on that quote. People will follow noise and hype and all sorts of flavors that exist in the world, virality. Purpose is, take a doctor, for instance. The more exclamations points you put in a marketing message towards a doctor, the more they're already trained to shut that down and say, no, this person's manipulating me. So if you're trying to manipulate people based on pain and based on pleasure, you're highly unlikely to ever have the emotional capacity to attract people who are purpose-driven anyway. But if you are purpose-driven and you appreciate the value of being purpose-driven, then instead of trying to fit into all these frameworks or these tactics, instead gravitate towards your heart. Ignore the idiots who are telling you that you're not driving enough pain in this, or you're not driving enough. Oh, your audience, do you know their psychographics? Do you know what they're thinking about at night? That's just a really fast way of the typical marketing agency or coach to get in your head and make you think that you need them in order to win. Purpose is, it's just more pleasant than that. It's more present, as Darren said earlier. So we have to kind of take off all of the layers of the noise and look at it from a more holistic standpoint. When you get more in tune with what it is that drives you from a purpose-driven standpoint, you'll become better at that. Or if you can find the people who are a little bit more pleasant, they're less salesy, then I recommend learning the recruiting strategies that got LeBron James to go to the Lakers. And the Lakers didn't go up to LeBron James and say, so what's the least amount we can pay you? Oh, I'm sorry. That's not the question they asked. They asked the question, how much is it going to cost to work with you? Which translates to the same thing. Right. How much is it going to cost me to work with you? And by the way, how and what are you going to, we really want you to dribble, but just shut your mouth, man. Don't lead these people. We want to exploit all of your talents and all of the things in your network and all of these realities, but we don't actually want to empower you to be a leader in this company. Like, the recruiting processes of small business is asinine. And it drives me crazy because I see a lot of great people who have no idea how to inspire great leaders to work with them. Okay. And we spend a lot of time nurturing entrepreneurs in terms of helping them realize, like, stop ruining your relationships before they start.
Yeah.
Learn to recruit. Again, the way that organizations like the Lakers and like the Spurs and like the Patriots, they do things to wine and dine with the individuals they may want to work with. They respect and honor those individuals and give them space to do what's called a healthy negotiation. Negotiation is not hostile, terroristic. No, it's a healthy dialogue.
Yeah.
We need to make space for that with the executives that we want to attract.
I love that. And also that, as entrepreneurs or as anyone hiring, we want to hire people that can take us further. We don't want to control them. We want to hire people with the skills and the insights that we don't have. So you don't want to stifle people. You want to let them fly.
Let them fly. Help them fly. Find out, what wind do you need? What materials is it that you feel you're going to want to use for that? What questions have I not asked you that I should be asking?
Definitely.
Be vulnerable. Yeah. And that's, again, that's another story. Be careful on that too, because if I tell people, oh, I'm leaving the country for a week and I'm leaving my house unlocked. By the way, if you go up into this, my code, there's a healthy dose of vulnerability that matters, and build the relationships the right way. That way you can trust people.
Yeah, love that. And just on the last point is, how do we know the purpose of our audience? And that is just market research, understanding our target market, understanding our niche, talking to people in our niche. Would you say that's correct?
At First Class Business, for our onboarding process, we do what's called a preliminary business evaluation. And the entrepreneur or their team dedicates at least an hour and a half to give us all the existing information they don't want to spend time doing. What's the mission? What's the vision? What's the culture? When are meetings, job descriptions of people? What's your org board look like? Financials? I mean, we go deep into that process, and most people want to skip that. Well, I didn't get to skip that when I learned how to flip burgers at Sonic. I had to learn for 8 hours before I even flipped my first burger. And I just talked to another entrepreneur, and they said, well, I didn't have to learn that at X company. And I said, what company did you say it was? And she said, this company. I said, that's why nobody's heard of that company. They didn't make it. So instead of worrying about the research and development, go work with teams that have great procedures, resources, and templates in place, and that have team members that help with the process. Our clients submit 30 competitors to us. It is shameful how many entrepreneurs are terrified of diving into just naming 30 companies they compete with. ChatGPT can do that for you in 2 minutes. Come on. It drives me nuts how spoon-fed people want to be. And if they give us the 30 names, our team does all the research. For, okay, what are their landing pages? What about their AdWords accounts? What are they doing in terms of creating? Who's been doing this for 20 years that we're never really going to be able to model and isn't winning based on the existing digital identity? Who's new and who's scaling right now because of this? Yeah. It's amazing what you can learn about growth about any industry or niche just by paying attention to what's going on around you, rather than being so sensitive and scared of the rest that you tend to boil yourself down to thinking, well, I don't have a lot of competition. It's just me. And I feel so bad for people who aren't willing to look at the reality they face in life, knowing that nobody's going to come and eat them alive. You're going to be just fine, but you have to be willing to look at where you actually stand in the market, because all of your prospects see it. All of your clients see it. Own it. Empower your team. Let's get it all done together.
True. And they always say, best way to stay in business is to try and put yourself out of business first.
Interesting. I like that.
What are some of the ways that I could put myself out of business? And then you can work against those.
Yeah.
Kind of preempting.
Very good. Good. Yeah, it's a good think tank.
Yeah, pretty cool. But Jackson, it's been amazing. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I love all your insights. I love your passion. I love your energy. I love your story. It's sensational. I can really see, how you've come about. But I'd love people to hear more about how they can work with you. tell us a bit more about you and how they can find you.
Those of you who gravitate towards what I said, come and join us on visionproslive.com. There's a button in the top right corner. It says, be our guest. If you've got a vision, I don't care if your vision is brand new and you're still selling the cars from stage that you haven't quite made yet, as long as you're ethical, as long as you've got a vision to help people, then come and share it. And if you happen to be way further along the stage like Darren, then of course, Darren's been on my show once, but I'd love for him to come back and dive in with me on the live streaming experience. If we bring great people together, we can do that much better together. So come and play with us for sure.
Love it. Really appreciate it, man. And I always like to leave, even though you've given us so much already, I always like to leave my guests with a last word to close out the show. So over to you. What would you like to leave us with today?
Will do. Darren's concept of playing with perspective, like learning to take the blind spots off, learning to look at new things from new angles is incredibly crucial. And I have a YouTube video I have not released. It's about the 4D perspective, diving into perspectives people don't consider. I will send that to Darren. That way he can share that with the audience as well. And when you find leaders like Darren, subscribe, latch on. More importantly, reach out and get to know them because they usually want to get to know you and help. This has been a fascinating experience, Darren. This is awesome. Keep it up.
Man, thank you so much. Ditto. Man, it was absolutely brilliant. I've learned so much and I'm on fire right now. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll put all the links in the show notes, and we'll see you very, very soon for our next episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Thanks again, Jackson.
Absolutely.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Just reach out via www.suspendedanimation.com.au. Also, remember to click on the link in the show notes for loads of great podcasting resources, webinars, courses, and opportunities to help you on your podcast journey. Many of them free. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.